All right, welcome into Mississippi State Postgame Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. Andrew Miller here after the Bulldogs fall in Gainesville, 23-21 final. As William SP's already pointed out, bad words. Yeah, I said a lot of them tonight, a lot of bad words. I'll see if a few more people join in here before we really get rolling. But for those of you who are joining the stream, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, please do. Turn that notification bell on so you do know when we do go live. If you could like this video, like the other content we're putting out, share the stream, would greatly appreciate it to get a bunch of people in here. I imagine we'll have a few people in here tonight after that performance. But, yeah, Mississippi State takes a loss that they really did not need to take. And that actually just reminds me of another note to talk about tonight. So I'll add that to my little document I have up. Just ugly game. Ugly game for Mississippi State. Did not play well. Specifically, when we talk about MSU offensively, we'll get into that. I'll let a few more people trickle in here before we really start diving into it. But yeah, that's a game that could hang over the season. That's a game that could hang over Jeff Lebby, if we're just being blunt about how that played out. Okay. State takes the loss 23-21 in Florida. A game where State starts off as well as they could have possibly asked for. They get the touchdown drive to open up the game. Shapen hits the big pass down the field on like the second or third play of the game to Anthony Evans. They're able to punch it in the end zone with Kamario Taylor coming in on a third and goal, or maybe it was a second goal. I don't remember, but he runs the ball in for a touchdown. State goes up 7-0, and Florida gets the ball, goes down the field, and looks like they've scored a touchdown. Refs say it was not a touchdown. On the review, they don't have a good angle to change that, and Florida has to settle for a field goal there. And State's got the ball, and I believe this is the drive where you've got Brendan Thompson wide open for a touchdown, and Shapen overthrows him, which has become a recurring theme this season. I don't know how you overthrow the fastest guy in college football, but it has happened numerous times. Should have been a 14-0 game. You end up having to, I believe, punt away on that drive. You have, Willie the winner pointed out that was the possession he overthrows him on. And really from that point forward, it was like that overthrow was a sign of just things to come for the rest of the game, because State offensively, it went back to being the team that they had looked like for much of the season. Whereas, the first couple drives, you see some moments where they're running it well. They obviously hit some explosive plays, have opportunities to hit more explosive plays. And it's like, okay, this could be the type of game. State has a big day offensively. This fits a lot of what you want to do in this offense. And State just could continue to not be able to get out of their own way, largely with Blake Shapen. We'll talk about him here just in a minute. Defensively, a game that, again, you kind of play well enough to win. And it wasn't a pretty game for the defense. Florida put up a lot of yards and was moving the ball pretty effectively throughout. And I think a lot of those stops, you could almost put them on. My God, did Bama just score a touchdown in the first half? All right. There were a lot of moments where you could probably argue Florida got in their own way, or if not had bad luck as to why they managed to not put points on the board. But ultimately, State made the plays you needed them to in the key moments to keep the offense, to give the offense opportunities, which coming into the year, all we have talked about with this defense is, can you do enough to give your offense a chance? And frankly, it's crazy how things have flipped. But the defense is doing exactly that. They are giving the offense a chance, and the offense is not delivering. Play calling was horrendous, arguably fireable. I won't go fireable, but yeah, it was horrendous in key moments for sure. There is another side to that where you left a lot of points off the board, but Lebby definitely earned a lot of blame in this game. No doubt about that whatsoever. A game where Billy Napier is undoubtedly going to be fired if Mississippi State wins this ball game. A game where Florida, as I kind of just mentioned, made plenty of mistakes of their own, gave Mississippi State every opportunity to put points on the board, gave Mississippi State every opportunity to take advantage of their own miscues, and State couldn't do it. And obviously, you get what happens at the end of the game. There's no better encapsulation of the way the game played out than how it ended, that you were in field goal range, down by 2. Kyle Ferry questionable miss earlier in the game, whether or not it was or wasn't a miss. And I guess that did end up being a big deal when it was all said and done. You would have expected him, though, to be able to go and make that kick and win you the football game. And would you have been feeling good about how you played? No, but you would have said, man, they turned around and they found a way to get a win. Maybe they could build off of it. You throw an interception to a defensive lineman. Again, when you're in field goal range, but you could have just run the football. Yeah. And you take just an ugly loss to a coach that we'll see if this game saved him for another couple weeks. There's a very good chance he's gone tomorrow regardless. There's a very good chance that it does not matter what happened in this game. Billy Napier's tenure at Mississippi State is done, especially because it's not like Florida went out and dominated this football game. Florida did not look good. Florida looked like a team that has lost a bunch of games, and you see why Florida cannot beat good teams. Jeff Lebby said he loved the play on the press conference. I'm going to talk about that. Yeah, no, I saw the quote from Lebby. You see why Florida has not been able to win football games. They're not a good team, but you let them get away with it, essentially. You let them get away with it, and you now have lost 15 straight conference games. Yeah, Willie, the rollout play from Napier on 3rd and 1 was awful. I get what they were doing. It ended up awful, but again, you also could have just lined up and run the football there. And I think they probably would have converted it, to be completely honest. Yeah, Florida lets you get away with it. Florida gave you an opportunity, or I misphrased that. Mississippi State let Florida get away with it, frankly. And this is one of those, I kind of talked about the Tennessee game. You know, that's a game a lot of State fans left it and said Mississippi State should have won that game, and State blew it. And if you look at the advanced stats, like, you know, post-game win expectancy from SP+, the, you know, net success rate, like Tennessee still ultimately outperformed Mississippi State in those metrics in that game, despite State having every opportunity to win those games. And because of that, like, even though State made a lot of mistakes, like I had a hard time saying State should have beaten Tennessee because of the idea of, like, yeah, you got in your own way, but Tennessee got in their own way as well. And in the end, it kind of balanced out. Tennessee's the better team. Tennessee was able to overcome making a lot of mistakes because you made a lot of mistakes yourselves. You can't give the better team more opportunities. You did that. Florida is the better team than Mississippi State from a talent standpoint. I don't think they're truly that much better. But talent-wise, like, Florida was favored like they were for a reason, because there's a lot of players on that roster that, if they were better coached, could win a whole lot of football games. Interesting thoughts on Lebby hiring no to call plays. I'll go ahead and answer that. I don't think he should. I don't think it's that point in his career. At the end of the day, the guy got this job because he's supposed to be a play caller. I know it's not working out the way you would like it to, but I have a hard time, go ahead and making that move to move on and go get an OC this quickly into his tenure. If this becomes a thing down the line more and more, assuming he is still Mississippi State's head coach moving forward, then that becomes another discussion. But for now, I wouldn't be saying you need to pull play calling duties or anything. But going back to, the final outcome, I won't be surprised if we look up and Florida's postgame win expectancy was still positive for State, although it may not have been. Given the way the game ended, State, this might be one where the numbers do bear it out of Mississippi State, quote unquote, should have won the game. From a success rate standpoint, I wouldn't be surprised if Florida moved the ball more consistently throughout. I kind of feel like they did. So when State makes all the mistakes they made, and Florida also made mistakes, and you get the final result, I have a hard time saying, well, you should have won the game. You kind of like both shot yourselves in the foot. But again, that gets into the point of, if you're Mississippi State, you can't afford to have those mistakes. You can't afford to be the team that is screwing yourself over. You can't afford to be the team that's shooting yourself in the foot and making dumb mental errors. You can't be the team that is missing wide open touchdowns. You can't be the team that's committing penalties left and right. You can't be the team obviously throwing an interception at the end when you got a chance for a chip shot field. It wouldn't have been a chip shot, but a chance for a comfortable field goal to win the football game. You are not good enough to afford making those mistakes, especially playing on the road, even against a team like Florida, as flawed as they are. And yet Mississippi State continues to make those errors, continues to have those miscues, and that's why they keep losing these games. I guess we can get into the Shapen now. Anyone who has watched this, anyone who follows me, knows that I've been an avid defender of Blake Shapen. And that's gone back since early in the offseason when people were first sort of pushing the idea of Kamario Taylor being the guy. I've been someone who's pretty adamantly defended, like, no, Shapen's the right guy for the job because, one, for his overall career, I've liked what I've seen from him for the most part. I think he's been a pretty good college quarterback for much of his career. I think the way he played last year, I don't at all put on him for that's Shapen's fault for why Mississippi State was losing those games last season. And even through these first few weeks, I've continued to defend him despite him not playing his best. I will be the first person to say, at no point have I felt Shapen has been playing well through these losses and through some of these rough moments. But what I would say is, and the reason I defended him so heavily, is there are so many other things that have been wrong with State offensively that just trying to pin it all on, it's just the quarterback, is just low-hanging fruit, and I don't think it's the right way to evaluate him in those circumstances. With the pass protection being as bad as it was and all the times where he couldn't get the ball out right away. The situations where, Levy would get away from a run game. The fact that they didn't have as many passing plays designed to get the ball out of his hands quickly. The fact that some of the plays that should get the ball out quickly, like jet sweeps and quick screen swing passes, something I've talked about a lot, those are plays that you're supposed to be able to count on as ways to pick up positive yardage, and State can't run them because they can't block. And what do you know? They did it twice in this game. They did a few more that were successful, but there was a sequence there where they ran two of them back-to-back, and Florida blew up both of them because State cannot block, and defenses are all over that. Basically, Shapen has kind of been having to play on hard mode a little bit over the last few weeks. So, no, did I think he was playing well? I didn't. But do I also think changing the quarterback would have fixed the problem? I didn't feel that way. Even though I recognize the talent that KT has and what adding a dual threat could potentially mean for the offense. There is no defending the way Blake Shapen played in this game tonight. And this might be the breaking point of, it's time to start looking elsewhere. If you just looked at the final stat line, you wouldn't think much. Completes 67% of his passes, 9 yards an attempt, 324 yards. Sounds like a good day, even without a touchdown and the one pick. There's a lot of games where you would take that stat line if you just said it blindly. Again, even with the interception there. If you watch the game, and obviously I know all of you did, he did not play well at all. 4 missed touchdowns in this game, at least 3, or 2.5. You get the one on the second drive of the game. You have Brennan Thompson wide open for a touchdown. You overthrow him, and you don't put points up on the board in that drive. You have another drive, I think it's the next drive or the drive after, where this time he does go to underthrow. Again, he's got Thompson open. He underthrows him just slightly and also leads him inside, and the safety's able to get over and make a play. If he puts that on his outside shoulder, which you're supposed to do on a go ball, in that situation, you were supposed to put that on the outside shoulder. If he does that, it's not a guarantee because the safety's still getting over there, but Brennan probably makes that catch and it's a touchdown. So there's twice that he missed on him with that. And then you have the throw. I don't even know, was it Aiden Williams in the end zone, or I don't know who it was, where it was the 3rd and long, and he's got him on a go route wide open in the back of the end zone, and he waits way too long to throw the football, and his receiver's out of bounds because of it. I'm not talking about the one where Aiden caught it, but he was out of bounds. This is the one that was earlier where he was I think it was Aiden, though. If he and the guy, he runs him into a ladder, which I don't know why a ladder is down there on the field. That's that whole situation. But again, if he recognizes that quicker, that's a touchdown. If he completes any of those, Mississippi State potentially wins this football game. I guess you never know how the game script would play out when it's all said and done, but you could have hit, if you had hit any of those just based on the way the score played out, you win the football game. Then you talk about the taking sacks thing, and that's the thing I've defended him the most on, because as much as sacks can be a quarterback stat, I do have a hard time when, one, either the pressure is immediate, or two, you were on your first read, and before you even get a chance to reset and work across the field, you're sacked. There's one that he took that it looked a lot rougher than it probably was, where he's going from 1 to 2, and right as that happens, the pocket collapses. That stuff's just going to happen sometimes. However, at the end of the first half, after they get another interception to give themselves a chance to get into field goal range, the sack he took there was absolutely horrible. Some of the times where he's trying to scramble and escape the pocket, he made one really nice play, extending a play. Other than that, it was pretty poor from him trying to escape the pocket and, make something happen there. you also have to understand at this point that the pressure is going to get there so quickly. Man, you can't just sit there. Like, you do have to move a little bit. And, like, I am starting to get to some of the other arguments a lot of other fans have made on this, where when it happens time and time and time again, like, sure, I can look at an individual play and say, okay, I get what happened there. I understand, like, that's not the biggest deal. At a certain point, you have to start to adjust how you play in those situations. And you have to find a way, like, either I'm firing this first read right away, or I'm checking it down. And, like, that's going to have to start to be the mentality you play with. And frankly, this is an offense, for the most part, you're throwing to the first read anyway. They're not asking you to work a ton of progressions. They do some. Like third downs, true drop back pass, yeah, read across the field. But a lot of these shot plays, like, either I know I've got it or check it down. Something like that. Like, that's got to be more of the mentality. And you're not getting that. So, like, that continued to hamper the offense. And then the interception at the end of the game. Just horrible. And obviously, we can talk about the play call. I'll do that when we talk about Levy. Like, yes, Florida baited him. I mean, they wanted him to think he's got an opening there, and then here's the defensive lineman dropping out. That's the idea there. But the problem is, it was a terrible throw regardless. Like, he throws it, I think it was towards Ricky Johnson, I think was who was in. He throws it well behind him. It's not going to get completed either way. And then, like, yeah, he's got to throw deep. I guess maybe if he notices that for a second, he could have had a potential touchdown there. But the ball, like, I can't even say he was trying to throw that direction because of the angle on the throw. It's a terrible throw. Like, even beyond the decision, if you want to say, man, the defense got me there and I just didn't see it, that's still not great. But you also made a bad throw. This was a bad game from Blake Shapen. This is one where I can't sit here and point to, like, was pass protection great? No, it wasn't. He also had, like, there were sacks he took where he could have potentially either gotten out of the pocket quicker or thrown the football away. And yes, those things have been true in previous games. This is one where it was especially bad. And when you miss that many wide open throws, again, he's had a few of those this season. Just about every single game, he's going to overthrow a touchdown. That's happened a lot. He overthrew 3 in one game, or missed on 3 in one game, in a game where the margins are this close. Like, it becomes a bigger deal that you are missing on those opportunities. Like, is it his fault Xavier Gayton fumbled down in the red zone when they got a chance to put it in the end zone? No. Is it his fault, like, when the refs ruled that Kyle's Ferry kick missed, which my thought on that is I think the end zone angle that they had to film that was a little bit turned towards the right, which doesn't give you a straight-on look at whether or not it actually broke the plane of the crossbar. I don't know, but Kyle thought it was for sure. Like, and Kyle obviously sees it straight on, so I don't know. That was a weird call. Obviously, he has no control over that, but I don't know, man. Find a way to get it in the end zone, and maybe not. That's not happening. And no, the play calling, like, that's not on Shapen. That's not a Shapen thing that the play calls were what they were. It's not all on him. But this was a game where it is cut and dry. If Mississippi State gets better quarterback play, they win the football game. And that is the first time this year that I can truly say that. Couldn't say it against Tennessee. Couldn't say it against Texas A&M. I don't think playing Kamario Taylor the whole game against Tennessee results in Mississippi State winning that football game. And obviously, with the way the Texas A&M game goes, I don't think it would have mattered who was in there. This time, Mississippi State, if they get better quarterback play, they win. Does that mean that if KT's in, they win? I don't know. But the problem is you've got to figure it out. And I get why Levy is reluctant to make that change. I'm sure he's probably not going to want them to make that change going into this next week, especially because he's going to look at it and say, well, Blake got us back in a position to win. I guess if you're going to give Blake credit on anything, he led a couple scoring drives and Mississippi State absolutely had to have it, and he did drive them in position there at the end. I was ready to get in the show. Like, I wasn't fully convinced they were going to win, but I was going to say, you know what? There's a little bit of redemption for Blake Shapen here. For as poorly as he played, and I can't take away a lot of what I've said, and it's still fair, there was a situation there where potentially we could be talking about, man, Shapen in the fourth quarter stepped up because he was actually looking pretty good there in those final few drives. And then he goes and throws an interception, and it's right back to the same old story. Like, I get why Levy didn't want to make a change in the game, which I have more thoughts on that a little bit later. I also get why he's going to be reluctant to make a change moving forward. But if this is the quarterback play you're going to get consistently, and at this point it kind of is trending towards it is. Again, like I didn't think Shapen was playing well in the previous games. I just thought there was so much wrong around him. I had a hard time just saying, how can I put that all in the QB? This is a game where there was enough working right that if Shapen plays better, they win, and it's cut and dry. You got to figure out if you got something with KT. Hell, you got to figure out if you got something with Luke Kromenhoek. I don't know. I mean, I doubt it because the guy just doesn't play. You cannot continue to go on with quarterback play the way it is right now. And like for Mississippi State, this is a situation where overall, offensively, yes, you have a lot of flaws. You're not perfect, but you've got to find some sort of a spark, and it might be Kamario Taylor that's the answer there. I don't expect a change to be made. I think Shapen's going to be your starting quarterback against Texas, but I'm saying this right now. Next week, when Texas comes to Starkville, and that defense is shutting down the MSU offense there in the first half again, to me, second half, you got to make a change at that point. Like I'm going into this assuming that Shapen's going to start because I just don't see Levy making a change. That's like I at this point I'd be tempted to make the change earlier, but that's got to be the cutoff point. Like see what you have at KT in that situation. But yeah, no, this was a bad game from Blake Shapen, and he absolutely is going to like. This is a game where quarterback play made a difference, and this is a game where you can put a lot on him. I kind of already had some thoughts about the defense. Like I said earlier, was it a pretty day for the defense? No. You give up 452 yards, 280 passing, including some throws down the field, 172 rushing. Jaden Ball, I think, had a career high, 150 yards, 6.5 a carry. They couldn't get Lagway to the ground. Obviously, you get a couple sacks, including a big one at a key moment, but there were several times they should have brought him down and they couldn't. Tackling was bad in this game. State missed a lot of tackles in this game. Florida went 4 of 11 on third down. I want to do the math on that. Okay, I mean, so you basically kept Florida around their average, 36% on third down. So it's not, passable. But look, you let Florida move the ball. They averaged 6.6 yards per play, which is probably a lot better than they've done throughout the season. So that part's not great. At the end of the day, though, you made stops. Do I think it should have been a touchdown to open up the game for Florida? Yeah, I think that was a touchdown. But ultimately, the refs called it what it is. It's a field goal. You get off the field. Boom. Awesome. I think DJ Lagway, that first interception he threw, if he throws that ball earlier or puts it more upfield, it's probably a touchdown. But he throws it late, and he leads it more inside, and Brian Lanier makes a play. And then again, second, interception, Brian Lanier makes another great play. But Brian Lanier, not that we're going to spend a ton of time players of the game in a loss. Brian Lanier is your player of the game for State defensively. I'm going to look at what was his final stat line from a tackle standpoint. He led the team in tackles, 8 total tackles, pass broken up, 2 interceptions, tackle for loss, and a sack, which the sack was the tackle for loss. That's the best game he's had as a Bulldog. That's a guy who's kind of been much maligned at times, has taken a lot of criticism, and some of it earned. Obviously, we remember the Georgia game last year, but a guy who's also made some big hits and big plays for State in moments, and he had a really good game for State today. Really led the way for the Bulldog defense. Offensively, I would say, Ben Thompson, I thought, probably had the best game overall. 7 catches for 155 yards. That's the crazy thing. It's 7 for 155, and twice he should have had touchdown catches that were big play. This could have been a 200-yard receiving day for Brennan Thompson. Also, shout out to Anthony Evans as well. 11 for 107. Devon Booth, 22 carries, 105 yards, a couple scores. Big game for him. Needed him to step up. Like some of your big-name players had big days offensively. If you're going to point something out, Linear played his butt off. Bright spot of the day. Definitely agree there. Shout out to Isaac Smith for getting a sack. I believe the first sack of his career. They finished a play there. The defense made enough stops. The third quarter, you force a couple punts there. Like, again, your offense has not been doing anything for, at that point, nearly a half of football, and you're still getting off the field. There was a couple penalties that were not, rough. Obviously, you're going to lose Zachary Tillman for the first half against Texas. That sucks, which I think that was targeting. It was pretty close. But ultimately, the fact he does lower his helmet there and you're up getting into, the neck area, they're going to call it. But I did think it was a little bit close for what it's worth. It's raining here, so that's fun. But look, defensively, you did enough to win the game. You made enough stops. You gave the ball back to your offense enough times. This could have been a win for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And defensively, like, you did enough. That's all you can ask of this defense. Like, no, the defensive line, it's the D-line play is not great. Like, the lack of pass rush is a problem. The fact they were missing tackles was not great. They just step up in big moments. And is that one of those things that's sustainable? I don't know. It's always weird how you talk about that. God, defense just shows up in key moments. But they've done it week after week after week. That is all you can ask for. And the offense is not holding up their deal into the bargain. And that's such the frustrating part of it. Is, like, I don't think anybody would have assumed that coming into the season, that we're talking about the Mississippi State offense being what is holding this team back. But it is. Whether it be O-line play, whether it be quarterback play, and play calling and coaching as well. Mississippi State offensively is just not playing good enough. I am sweating my butt off right now, so that's really fun. Just perfect way to be doing this post-game show right now with the way this game is going. Let's talk about Lebby. The grace period is over. Any sort of benefit of the doubt that Lebby is going to get as the coach for Mississippi State is over. It ended in this game against Florida. Last year, 2-10, and obviously he took plenty of heat for that. And yeah, you go 2-10, nobody's going to be happy. But it was also understandable that, man, that roster sucked. You had nothing defensively. You could not stop anything. And offensively, was it as good as people were hoping for year one? No. But you still showed flashes on offense, enough on that side of the ball that it's like, okay, you see Jeff Lebby kind of doing his thing. Like, this is going to get better once he gets a few more of his players in. It's just going to be a bad year. You've gone into this season. Yes. Is the team improved? They are. They are more talented top to bottom. You obviously have shown the ability to win games this year, which is a big key difference from a season ago. Beating Arizona State is a good win. And ASU beat Texas Tech today. I know ASU got killed by Utah the week before, but Texas Tech, that's a really freaking awesome win for Arizona State. So, like, that win has aged decently well. Like, that is still a good win. You were toe-to-toe with Tennessee, which does count for something. Even though, like, I know you lost the game, that matters. And clearly, I mean, the fact that you were even in a game today is an improvement from where you were a season ago. The team is better. You've lost 15 SEC games in a row, and you're 0-11 in those games as the coach. And this is one you could have won, and this is one you potentially should have won. I know I kind of talked about that earlier. It's like, I don't know if you can fully say that. But when you consider the situation in Florida, that coach is fired. I don't care if he keeps his job for another couple of weeks. Billy Napier is done as the head coach of the Florida Gators. And it's not like Florida went out and just played their tails off for their coach to rally the troops one final time. They didn't play a good football game. This could have and should have been a win for State. This was an opportunity to finally snap that streak. This was an opportunity to get it done and build some momentum and set yourself up where you say, okay, they're 5-2. They've got a conference win. They got that monkey off their back. Now they're going to find a win somewhere else the rest of the way. Get to a bowl. That is a really good season for this team, given where they've been as a program. And you go and you lose this game. And coaching was not good in it. Some of the play calling stuff from Lebby in this game. And I got notes on my phone, so just going back to look at it. Like, the first one that really stood out, the 5 straight quarterback runs. So you bring in Camario, and what I liked is you bring him in, and it's not just one play. You give him a sequence. You give him a series and let him try to move the chains. You just keep running quarterback run. Now, were a few of those read plays potentially, and I know the third down that gets stopped, it looked like it was, which people have asked, did Camario make the right read on that play? I don't know. The thing is, yeah, the defensive end crashes. Like, it's weird because you got a jet sweep going the other way, but the defensive end, who, if he's reading someone, that's who he's reading, that end crashes and turns his shoulders towards, I think it was Gaden who was in motion. In theory, if you see that defensive lineman turn his shoulders, that kind of signals pull read for the quarterback. The problem is, once that happened, Florida was able to take advantage, which Look, Florida had defenders in play. To be fair, that might be as simple as Florida expected some sort of an option look there. Somebody account for the back, somebody account for the QB, and basically force the quarterback to have to pull the football, and then we'll get it stopped. I don't know for sure that's what happened. I just know that's the way you'll see teams to defend those read plays. Is they'll have the defensive end is locked on the back, like, hey, you're going to take the running back, force the quarterback to have to pull it, and then we're going to have somebody loop around to get to the QB. That I don't know if that's what happened or not. Shape in the next play. I'll be honest, that one I was not paying attention to see the read component. They ran the exact same play, which I'll speak on that. The shape and play, I didn't pay attention to the line well enough to know whether or not he should have handed it off or not. I don't know. Most people were saying he should have. Maybe, maybe not. Either way, the decision to run that play, like you pull Shapen out and then you go with the exact same play call. The only thing I can think is Lebby had it in his mind. There's no way Florida is going to expect the exact same play when we pull KT. I don't know, man. Like that's not a chance I want to take. And Lebby's done this a few times where like you'll see him run the same play multiple times in a row. Like kind of the idea of like, we like this play, we like this matchup, we think it's the right call. Yeah, they stopped it this time, but we're going to do it again. Very tush push-esque for Mississippi State and how they handle that at times. That's just but if you're going to do it again, man, I'd rather the quarterback who I trust can bowl forward. And I don't think Shapen is as bad as a runner as people think. Like we see him at times when he is able to get loose, can move a little bit. I think logically, again, he had to be assuming that we're going to be able to pull a fast one on Florida here. I don't like putting the ball in Shapen's hands in that spot. To me, like if you're going to just run the same play, give me the better player to do it. Better player in terms of fit for that play. Although at this point, maybe he is the better player. Like I said, Shapen played like garbage in this game. So I'm not even like trying to make some sort of a statement there one way or the other. Shapen sucked in this game. The guy who at least I know is a better runner put him in that spot. So there was that one. You had a couple 3-and-outs where you didn't give the ball to the running backs once. And obviously there's always the RPO element of this, where State runs a ton of RPO. And if you run an RPO, that means the quarterback has an option to throw the football. And Shapen loves to not hand it off and throw the football on RPO. There's times I think he pulls it when he doesn't need to. I mean, look, again, I'm normally the last person to be talking about run the ball just to run the ball, but State's running backs were effective enough. I don't get having a sequence to start off a drive where we don't even try to get them the ball in their hands. I think that's what Lebby thought with quarterback run, which is dumb, especially when the sweep had an opportunity there. Yeah, honestly, like that could have been an idea. Like keep Camario in the game, but this time run a design sweep, which I know we talked about earlier. Like they can't block those sweeps, but that time it probably would have been there. Like everyone, I would rather keep Camario in and like we are running this football and then the ball's going in the hands of somebody else. But the 5 straight QB runs, like part of my problem there, and I forgot to say this, but this leads into the idea of like possessions where the running backs aren't touching the ball. Because they had like 2 3-and-outs where they just run 3 straight quick passes in a row and you're punting the ball. In an offense, like this is not the air raid. This is an offense where you were trying to run the football. This is an offense where you got a lot of looks to run the football because Florida sits back in a too high look most of the game. 5 straight QB runs, going back to that possession. Are you trying to get the guy killed? Put the ball in the hands of the back at least once. If you don't trust him to throw it, whatever, which at some point you've got to do that because, man, like it's going to be wide open. But if you don't trust him to make a decision to throw, hand it off to the back. That's still going to be different than what the defense is expecting. Take the read out of it. Just say, hey, like we're running counter here. Ball's going in the hand of the back. Running inside zone, whatever. Ball's going in the hand of the back. No read. And I know they can do it because I have seen them run designed handoffs. There are times they run the football and there is no RPO. There are times they run straight. It is a run. You can call it. And I don't get not doing it in the game. And it's frustrating when the offense is not working and you know Shapen's having the issues that he is, and you don't do that. And obviously, like, that goes beyond like the 5 straight QB runs thing. Like, you should have mixed the handoff in there somewhere. But when you're having so much trouble just getting started and getting momentum found, that's where, like, let's get a run going to get a little drive started. Let's find some momentum on the ground. And I do not get it whatsoever. Somehow Kentucky and Texas are tied at 10 in the fourth quarter. I actually do get that. Texas in a letdown spot. Texas offense sucks, and Kentucky's defense is not very good. But, I mean, they're playing at home in Lexington. That kind of feels like a very typical Texas letdown type of spot. So, like, again, not using the running backs the way they need to do. And, look, I know it's not as simple as just handing it off to them because, like, throughout the course of the game, there were times where they handed off and Florida made plays defensively, even when they had a look to run the football well. But, again, for as much as Shapen was struggling, why are we throwing the ball 36 times? I feel like you got to mix something else in there. And then finally you get to the end of the game and the decision there, which some people had issues with the clock management thing. I would have taken a timeout earlier than – I wouldn't have let it burn all the way down to the 2-minute. I would have taken a timeout earlier. I think there's 2 lines of logic there. One of them is – the idea of timeout being more valuable than the time on the clock itself. That we're going to run tempo. We're going to be able to get enough plays to move the ball. We don't really care whether there's 2 minutes left or 2:15, 2:20. The 20 seconds isn't as valuable as having the ability to stop the clock if we have to. So I get why they wanted to leave themselves at least one timeout. I still think they could have taken one earlier. As to why you don't take one right before the 2 minutes, so like let's say it had gotten down to there's 2:05 left. Why would you not take a timeout at 2:05 and let it run down to 2 minutes? The idea is that if you give it to where there's only time to run one play before the 2 minute, you give the offense the ability to throw a risk-free pass. Basically, like the offense doesn't want to throw in that situation because they know if this ball hits the ground, the clock stops. If the clock's going to stop regardless because of the 2 minute timeout, as an offense, you're like, well, we can throw the football here. Like, just don't throw an interception, but we can throw it here. If we have to throw it away, it's no big deal. The clock is still stopping regardless. That's the mindset there. But I still think he could have taken one earlier, and then maybe you let it run down still a little bit, and you give yourself a few more seconds. Not that it mattered at the end. Time is not what did Mississippi State in. The decision to not run the football at the end and throw the pass. And the quote from Levy was that they loved the call. They felt, I think it was something they wanted to get down to around the 20. Brandon Walker made a comment on Twitter about this that is fair, that there's so many times we see coaches, they get into field goal range and they get super conservative and then they end up missing the field goal. And then how often we say, you idiot, why did you stop trying to move? Like, why'd you stop trying to score? I get it. Like, I don't think it's the worst call on earth. I do think, Will asked earlier if that was just coach speak. Probably, but at the same time, I get where he's coming from. But at the same time, man, when you are in field goal range and you've got a chance to win the game here, and it's like we've got a field goal to win the game, and you choose to still put it in the air. Yes, Blake had been playing well on that particular drive, and really, I mean, the couple drives preceding it. The quarterback has not had a very good night. Your quarterback is also prone to taking sacks he should not take. Giving the opportunity that, one, he takes a sack to put you out of field goal range, and then two, the chance of an interception. Like, I think it's possible you can't have handed the football off and still gotten good yardage, because Florida's whole thing here is like they're going to play prevent because they don't want to give up the touchdown. Like, I don't really fully – I understand the decision. I don't think it's necessarily the right call. I think you keep it safe and give yourself a chance to kick a field goal. Sure, we got an opportunity for one kick to win the game. And they ultimately didn't do that. This was not a well-called game from Levy. And the counter argument to that is if State hits the wide-open touchdowns that Shapen misses, if Xavier Gayden doesn't fumble, if they call that field goal correctly, or if Kyle just drills it instead of leaving it close, maybe you win this game, and ultimately Levy called a game good enough for State to win the football game. That's all fair. That's all good. But the counter I would have to that is, like, the quarterback thing is the big part of it. Like, we're saying, well, you left all these touchdowns off the board because Shapen couldn't throw a touchdown. You didn't have to leave him in there. You could have made a change at QB and see if it sparked something. Now, I know why he left him in as long as he did, because his mindset is, this is the guy I trust, this is the guy I have the most confidence in, and if it's still within a 2-score game, I can put him in, and that could be like, I guess, like, he is clearly, like, he doesn't think KT's ready, and he doesn't want to put KT in a serious spot in that environment, having to make decisions throwing the football. But if your quarterback is continually missing plays, even if the game is close, you could have made a change. There's also the fact 6 penalties for 70 yards in this game, or is it 7 for 60, I think. Like, there's a false start, which is a false start Shapen had. Like, there's a legal formation or a shift or whatever that they didn't get set that takes away a positive play for them to open up one of those drives. That's another thing Shapen screwed up. You have to make sure your guys are set. But some of the penalty stuff, like, they have a 64-yard punt that gets called back because of illegal formation. The illegal formation thing they've had all year with an offensive lineman too far off the line. If these things are happening week in, week out, if you're having these little execution errors come back to bite you, if you're having penalties come back to bite you, that falls on coaching eventually. Eventually, it's not as simple as, well, we just got to go out and execute, or we got to clean up the mistakes. You're the coach. This has been a problem your entire tenure at this point, is Levy always talks about missing the layups. Well, we keep missing the layups. Why are they missing the layups, Jeff? Like, at a certain point, it does fall back on you. This is the first loss of Levy's tenure where it is truly, coaching played a legitimate role. And it's not all coaching, because, again, he had a quarterback that if he has better quarterback play, you win. But you coach that quarterback and you choose that quarterback in the game, if he makes mistakes, it ultimately does fall back on you. This is one where Levy made decisions that hurt Mississippi State's chances of winning a football game. And that is something that, like I said at the beginning of this little spiel, grace period's over. You can't just talk about talent. You can't talk about, we're just playing teams that are better. I don't care that Florida was favored by as much as they were in this game. You did not have a team come out and play well enough to win the football game in a game you needed to win. That falls back on coaching. And that becomes a problem. And now you're going to take a ton of criticism that is deserved, but it's also going to be, you're going to have a hard time really convincing people that, like, you're going to be the guy moving forward. Like, you have to earn that trust back at this point, because, like, now legitimately it starts to become, okay, is Jeff Levy doing the job he's supposed to be doing here at Mississippi State because of the way you lost this game and the issues you had? And, I mean, to put it out forward, another conference game, Purcell looks good enough. Texas looks okay. Georgia and Ole Miss, different level. And Missouri on the road seems a problem. It's hard to expect another win at this point. I guess the odds are they'll win. I would say the odds are they'll find one just by luck of it. I don't think they're going to a bowl at this point. And missing a bowl after the start you had would be incredibly disappointing. And I know before the year, if you told me 5-7, I would have said that's a huge success given where the program is. But seeing the way the season has played out, 5-7 is going to be a big disappointment if that happens. 4-8 will obviously be awful. Is Jeff Levy going to get fired? No, that's obviously not going to be the end of it for him. The team is too improved, and they're not going to fire a coach at this point 2 years in. I know people are always talking about fireable defense. People are talking about we're getting done with Levy, but you're not going to make a change at this point. You've got to give him another chance to build out of it. This was concerning, though, from Levy. This is a performance you look at and can start to have real questions about, is he the guy for you moving forward? He's got to fix a lot with this team for them to turn it around. That'll do it for me tonight. I got a lot of stuff I got to be able to sit down and write. And also I got a stupid clock behind me that's about to go off and be annoying. So I'm going to end the stream here. Thanks to those of you who tuned in. Hey, there goes the clock right now. If you haven't already liked the video, subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on. Would an ugly win over Texas be enough? At this point, you got to take a win. Obviously, you'd be happy with a win. Yeah. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share, all that stuff. Thanks for those of you who tuned in. As always, swing your sword. Hail State.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the voice of college football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.